And that ending up with a big debt when you really haven't got a bit of paper that's not worth that much afterwards is not necessarily a great idea. I think actually things have gone full circle. I mean, even banks and things like that are taking on commercial apprentices out of school at 18 now and seeing the benefit of kids who don't want to have that sort of debt.
Welcome to this, another episode in Pints of View, where myself, Gary Goldsmith, get to interview some of my incredible friends. Now, my black book is full of very weird and wonderful people. Today's guest is Mr. Bill Bottriell, a friend of some 30 years. So, Bill, welcome to Pints of View. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Huzzah! Now, there's lots of things to talk about here today. I'm loving the fact that you're so out of your comfort zone. So literally, this is absolutely brilliant. Now, with all my guests, I write a little poem as a way of introduction. So, strap in, sweetheart. The good news about this poem, it will end. Bill is a man on a mission, creative, brave, with extraordinary vision. He's funny and most charming. His winning streak is very, very alarming. He's great at holidaying because he always ends up paying. He's the best at entertaining. He loves his boat, but never when it's raining. It's not my best work. Tooting to Wimbledon, that's where he lives. Churches and charities he loves to give. Rhythm and sporty, not so much, the man can't clap. This reminds me, how many Spurs cups? He's been retired for most of his brilliant life, making time for his family and his incredible wife. He's coming today for japes and tomfoolery, sharing his tale about buying a brewery. Oh, that's my best one. For me, not drinking, this might be a living hell, but a story worth sharing. What do you think? Hello, my mate, Bill Bottriell. A round of applause, I reckon. Someone brace. So producer James is in the room here, making sure everything's good. You need to give yourself a round of applause. Right, Bill. Right, so this is fun because there's so many things we can talk about today. I've made a list. We could talk about Boris Becker commentating live in your house for Wimbledon. So many serious bets on Spurs every year because you think this is the year. This is the year more than any other time.
50-1, good bet.
This is not a good bet.
Oh, marvellous! Wait and see.
You're just giving away money. Buying great people in your business and then just getting out of the way. We could talk about the LSE generation that you were part of and how many amazing mates that you've had. All went on to do great things. We won't mention the dodgy one taking money in Nigeria, but I might just have done that. How you taught me to work with suppliers to get them to work for you, which was great. Being normal and very grounded with all the success that you've had. Serial entrepreneur, but we can talk about some of the mistakes today. So remember the phone that was smelling? That was a good one. That didn't work.
It did.
Did you sell it?
That worked.
Did you make money on that one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We are going to talk about the piss up in the brewery and how that all came about today. How you met Michael Milken, but they were going to buy the business and they didn't realise what they were buying, and I end up with me saying the immortal lines. Do you remember? Anybody want to buy a plane? Your lack of rhythm and inability to clap in beats.
I'm surprised you said clap because last time you said I couldn't crap.
Yes, anyway, you can do that.
I can, yeah.
Yeah. We can talk about Oscars as well and the horse races, but I'd like to talk about today, as a tale of the unexpected, how you organised the piss up in a brewery, but you did have to buy the brewery. So I remember going to you once to ask for 8 million quid to go in, when I was off my head, to ask for 8 million.
Which week was that?
Yes, thank you. When we were trying to raise money to do a land grab to build the world's biggest wind farm in Texas. A land grab against Shell, and I thought I could take on that big enterprise. What was I thinking? And you were slightly half cut because you just come back and bought a brewery, and you
20%.
Yeah, and you just turned around to me and just said, "I'll give you $1 million to shut up." That was classic. So I'd really like to talk about the whole Meantime experience, how it came about, how you put your money in, how you created what was a brilliant brand. It was in every pub in London, and how you exited at exactly the right moment in time. Tell me.
Well, to start off with, I didn't create it. I was very good at. I think probably the best thing I was finding good people to do the work for me. I got introduced to a brewery. I'd been out in America, seeing craft beer was doing very well. America sneezes, we catch a cold, so we copy suit. And, very quickly realised probably a good time to get into it. Invested in it. We managed to get. We actually got the CEO and founder, who was a fantastic brewer, best brewer in the country, won all the awards or whatever, but not really a CEO. Fantastic at setting up a brewery and all that technical side. We came to the conclusion that he was not the man to take it forward. In that sense, and we got a guy, Nick Miller, I can mention his name, a genius who actually got Peroni going from being in Pizza Express to being the biggest craft, selling expensive beer around, because that's what you got to do is sell beer expensive.
Yeah.
Stack it high and sell it dear. Remember that one?
Yeah. The S3 mantra.
He came on board and it was unbelievably successful. And funny enough, it was always something we were going to sell. We went out to banks or whatever, and without cut, there's a non-disclosure on how much they paid for it. The banks gave us a top figure, and we got an offer of over double that and we sold it, and it was very nice. And so somebody can say I've definitely got far more out of beer than it's ever got out of me.
Okay. How did that journey exist? So, how many years? How many rounds of funding? What lessons did you learn through the process?
Well, it was only they'd done an initial friends and family before I got involved. Then they did the second one, the bigger one, which was to build a new brewery, was when I got involved. And then we had a very small extra raise or whatever after that. So it wasn't, and it was all. It didn't go out. It was all private money.
But what was Nick's major role then? Was he basically finding the channel to market, getting it?
Yeah, he had the contacts. I mean, we got him with Young's. Young's at the time was a big one or whatever. He was very good at marketing or whatever. Didn't go for the big supermarkets. The on trade as opposed to the off trade or whatever. The on trade being pubs and bars or whatever. Went for that, and that was a successul point or whatever.
And what made you want to actually invest in this? What stood out?
Well, I've quite liked investing in things I like. I mean, I've sort of. I suppose my biggest ones. I've got an events company, which is great fun. Very hard to make money out of, but they do the most fantastic do's around. I've got a share in a film company, which we all like films and TV or whatever. It's post-production. And I love beer. So I sort of,
it's worth talking about Smart, because Smart did very well out of the Olympics.
We did. Well, we punched well above our weight, and we did the catering for all the corporate sponsors at the Olympics, which it was about 5,000 people a day in all the BMWs, the IOs, the Olympic Committee themselves, British Airways and all that. We had all those with Angela Hartnett. I think the only thing about a big project like that, although it did very well financially, sometimes it takes your eye off the ball on the other things you're doing. So we probably, at the end of it, we sort of took a big step forward and then a step backwards or whatever. But it was brilliant. It was lovely to do. It was quite an experience.
And who was it? Was it the IOC that actually took you out to Russia? Or was it the
Yeah, no. We went out to. They asked us to go out to Sochi, and to be honest, we were very good in the UK, but we weren't an international company, and we agreed we'd consult on it, and we pulled out in the end. I think with no disrespect to the Russians, who are
nervous.
Where I've never seen so much crookery going on or whatever. The IOC, I'm not going to get into a lawsuit about talking about them, and then they put an intermediary company called Jumbo Grande Eventi, who they asked us to work through, and we were considering it when we found out the chief executive had been arrested in Sicily for mafia-related bribery. I thought at that stage we weren't.
It's not a bit of me.
We weren't keen on. We sort of decided not to go ahead. But in London, it was fantastic.
But Smart have gone on to bigger and better things. Tell us about this new boat.
Well, there's a controversial one. We have got the most objections that have been. We've got over 5,000 objections down the Thames or whatever from residents or whatever. I can sort of understand it. There's been mistakes put into the planning. We put planning in for. It's a fantastic boat. It's an 89-metre events boat. It's called Ocean Diva. We've had a few technical difficulties. It's going to be. It's the first carbon neutral. It's an electric boat. It's got backup biodiesel, but it'll be running off electricity. It's soundproofed. It's a marvellous thing for London.
I don't think people get a size of its scale. Yeah. How many people can it have on it?
Well, you see, the thing is, our partners run a thing called Ocean Diva in Amsterdam, which are party boats. And I think the residents have seen, massive parties or whatever. We're not planning to do that. It's going to be for corporate events, product launches, awards dinners, or whatever. They'd originally put in a plan for 1,500 people. That was a mistake. We won't be going for anything like that number on there. For all sorts of reasons, and I think when people get there, it's soundproofed. It's going to be a massive benefit to London. I think it's going to attract huge events. We've got inquiries for car launches, etc., premieres for films, this type of thing or whatever. Because London's an iconic city, and this will be something incredible. And hopefully we work with the neighbours and everybody like that, and they come to see that 5,000 of them are wrong.
So
and it will be.
So, what percentage of investments do you get a decent rate return from? What do you think is a fair return? 1 in 3, 1 in 2? Oh
no. I've actually put quite a lot of very small investments in a number of companies, and when you do early stages, and in fact most of them don't work out, and it's a bit like gambling and bets. I mean, we only talk about our winners, and which and never mention when you've lost.
No.
I did invent one of the funniest ones I ever did was a thing called Ice Space. Which was
I remember Ice Space.
Which was
it was in the shadow of Tower Bridge.
Tower Bridge, and they imported, I think, how many 2 billion tons of ice from Canada, and we had ice sculptures and ice thing or whatever. And I would say I invested about 2 weeks after I'd had an armed robbery in my house, so I think my brain was a little bit frazzled, and that one actually melted. It didn't work. It didn't work.
That was quite expensive to keep it going as well.
Yeah. It was. It didn't. It probably wasn't that environmentally friendly now when I think back about it as well.
No.
But so that was. I'm not going to say about all my mistakes, but there are many of them.
Yeah, but I just think people need to understand if you're an investor, you have to be able to lick your wounds occasionally and know when it hasn't.
Can we talk about your tattoos? Because you have got that one, my mum's quote that I give him, and one of his tattoos is, spend and God will send, which my lovely Irish mother taught me.
But to be fair, it was an homage to you, and I've lived by it ever since. So I'm living like a billionaire, and I certainly haven't got those sort of funds.
Yeah, it just doesn't, he doesn't send as much as he might.
No, I wish I did. You don't talk about the other one, which I do love, Nouveau Riche. Keeping it real with the fam. It's probably worth just talking about the S3 journey. So everyone kind of knows the end game and all the success there. Tell us about those early years. So effectively, you started up a business because you couldn't hold down a perm job.
Oh, totally. I was unemployable. Yeah, I after I left university, I had 14 jobs in 7 years.
Yeah, we wouldn't hire you. Yeah, literally serial job offer.
The thing about it is nowadays you can't get away with it. But I mean, I remember actually on my CV calling up somebody who I'd worked for 3 months and say, can you say I worked there for 2 years if you get a reference? And they did. So it was, I was sort of a little bit of a hothead, and I was good at getting jobs though, which was obviously, could
definitely
passed on to other people, yeah.
So tell us about those first couple of years.
Well, my original, but the two of us started up Simon Arbor and myself, and we put £5,000 in each.
Oh, you went mental.
Yeah,
you went big.
Like a back room or whatever. It was brilliant. We had a lot of fun.
Blandford Street, above the Wombles.
Blandford Street, above where the Wombles they made the Wombles and Paddington, the original Paddington Bear stuff, and it took off. We got into something at a great time. The timing is.
You gave it the worst name in the world.
What, Computer Futures?
Computer.
I
mean, computer. It ran out of steam a long time ago.
It's like Car Phone Warehouse. Yes. They've done terribly, haven't they?
Yeah, but exactly. It doesn't really work. When I inherited that name,
who's got a car phone anymore?
Yeah, no, exactly.
But they did all right.
Okay, yeah, but they should have changed the name. Yeah. What did Nokia do before it made mobile phones?
Was it dog food or something?
Matchsticks. Yeah. So, but they just keep changing the brand. So in that first year, were you making money almost from the get-go?
Yeah. Yeah, we did. Yes, we. I mean, it wasn't in that terms or whatever, but I mean, I think now they turn over. They're getting on for 2 billion turnover, aren't they now?
Yeah.
Now we've left.
Yeah. But since we left, they've done all right. Do you think? So is there any similarity you think in terms of today's market? Back then, it was really hard to get hold of a candidate. I mean, we were using paper media. We didn't have a database. It was card boxes. You were CV stripping to give yourself a chance. I think it was actually harder then to make money, but there's more competition now. It's just different.
Well, I've been out of it for 15 years now. So no, it's longer, 18 years. And so I couldn't. My son's got a recruitment business, and he asked me no advice at all. So
I sit on his board. We've got that nailed.
He said.
So in the first couple of years, you were still making money. When did you press that button to go for that sort of hyper growth? What was the
when
plan?
I met you, Gary?
That is the right answer. 6 years of kicking around doing 3 million quid. But what was the big trigger for growth? You were basically, was it based on headcount growth? You being scientific about it?
I think it's an interesting time now because everybody feels there's a downturn in it's happening now. Now I actually think the downturn at the beginning of the 90s was the best thing that ever happened to us. Didn't seem like it at the time, but when we came out of it, we were fairly early stage. We had to. I had a couple of kids. We had to make it work, and we came out stronger. A lot of the competition got beaten down, and when we sort of grew from.
But you did a very smart thing. Where you bought media miles ahead. So you were buying those pages.
I had three-year long contracts or whatever with when it was paper publishing, and I think it was probably they signed a 3-year contract. I did a lot at very low rates, and they'd been negotiating like 4 years ahead and eventually when they tried to put my rates up massively, I said, well, that's fine. At the end of the 3 years, I'll start my own magazine up because I've got all your database in any case. So they relented.
But we had like 30 odd pages of advertising, and
we were only 50 at some times.
Yeah, it was just
we kept different companies, didn't we?
It just looked too much. It's apparently the reason why IKEA lorries are all painted white. Because if you see how many lorries are on the roads with IKEA, we'd just be put off. So it's a smart move to actually have more brands.
Different names.
Well, it also did work. So that was during the generation where it was all on PSLs, and we didn't promote the fact that we're all one company.
No.
So we might have 6 people on a PSL, and we were all of them.
Yes, yeah.
That was good.
Yeah, it was quite funny going along to a company, and they were moaning about one of our other companies, and sort of saying, "Well, I never ran down the competition," and they liked us, and it went vice versa.
So I think one of your killer moves with the business was appointing business leaders and letting them get on with it. And your primary job was to basically walk around and stir us up. Yeah. Say, oh, Gary Eldon's doing amazingly well, you're not keeping up with him. Yeah. And that's all you did all the time. It was really, really, really mean.
Yeah, but I did it nicely, didn't I?
Well, it was very hard because sometimes we had to put on a hat, which is group hat, but in the 90% of the time, we're actually just working on our brand. Yeah. And I didn't care what other brand beat me as long as it wasn't Progressive. Because you kept telling me how well Sunderland's doing.
Yeah, even if they weren't.
Even if they weren't, which was a really good time. But what do you think it takes to get somebody who's going to be super special? What was it that made them stand out in your mind?
Do you know what? I don't know. It was gut feel. Really, yeah. It's funny. I've never really mentored people, and I think I give my time to people, or whatever. But say in business, and do you know Jimmy Greaves?
Of course.
Jimmy Greaves is one of the greatest footballers of all time. And they said, why did Jimmy Greaves not go into coaching? And so Jimmy Greaves said, I don't know what I do, I just do it, or whatever. And I've always been a bit like that. It's I think the other one was Stephen Fry. So somebody asked him, can you tell my son how to become a great actor? He said, no, I can't tell you. I said, I can tell you how I did, but I can't. So I don't know.
But you did.
I'm just lucky.
You are very lucky.
Yeah,
I talk about your winning streak all the time, and then you don't tell us about every time you lose. But there was that time when you had that incredible bet on Spurs, and you double down, and you came second. I've never wanted Spurs to win anything in my life, but I just knew if Spurs had won, we were having one hell of a party. Yeah,
I had some of it at sort of 90 to 1, and I'll even talk sums. I had about £13,500 in total on Spurs to win the Premiership, and if they'd won it, the season Leicester won, I would have won 832,000. There's a lot of charities missed out and things like that, and a lot of boozes that didn't happen. I did hedge. I'll never bet against myself, but a cousin of mine, Tom, put £200 on Leicester. I said to him at Christmas, they look quite good at 100 to 1, and he said, would I swap 10,000 if Leicester won it? He'd give me 10,000 if I'd give him 20,000 if Spurs won. So I agreed. So I ended up only losing £3,000. So and I had a lot of fun. So yeah,
that was a good.
It was one of my better bets or whatever. Although I lost, it was not that bad.
It wasn't that bad. What do you think about Spurs this year?
Oh, shoe in. 50-1, get your money on now. We're not in Europe. Harry Kane's going to stay. We've got Maddison. Son's been playing with...
He's rubbish last year.
Son's had the hernia all
He's
season.
Rubbish last year.
Yeah, because he had a hernia. He's been injured all last season. We've got Maddison in. We've got Bentancur. We've got that Solomon or whatever, the Israeli guy who loves Spurs fan. It's going to be incredible. We've got a new goalkeeper.
The thing is that
other signings to come. Get your money on quick. Leave it a couple of hours because I want to get down a few more and I don't want the odds coming down too much.
So I think you'd be fine.
50-1.
So a lot of people don't know you're a serious shareholder at Spurs as well. So
no, I'm not a serious shareholder. I own it slightly under 1%.
But that's quite serious.
It could be, and I'm hoping for a sale. Could be another party.
A chance to reload.
I did actually. If you remember, a number of years ago, a few of our directors, Russell, Sunil, and Simon, are all Spurs fans, and I said when I got diluted because I didn't follow them, but I had about 1.5% at one stage, and I said let's buy 10%. I'll buy 5%. You buy the rest, and they didn't do it. And I didn't go and extend when Spurs was valued at 50 million. And they are talking in the billions now, aren't they?
I know, it's ridiculous.
But anyway, you don't worry about what you missed out, just what you get.
Okay, well, the way things are going at Chelsea, mate, they've sold so many players, I might get a game. Shall we? So tomorrow we're going to Wimbledon.
Yes.
So we've got a form of going to Wimbledon and having fun together. To be fair, I Christmas with you, I party with you, we do Wimbledon together. I'm literally like a surrogate part of the family. Tell me this story about...
And my kids love you.
Yeah, I love your...
And my wife loves you.
And I love your wife. Oh, we were talking about my CV the other day. We were talking... We were
Grimm's fairy tales.
Oh, no, so apparently, she was explaining to the ladies at Wimbledon how I used to be a junior tennis pro. And I went... By definition, you can't be a professional and get paid for it as a junior. Yeah. And she went, so you weren't? She goes, that was the single biggest reason why Bill liked you at interview. And I thought, she goes, did you get A-levels? I went, you can quite easily turn an F into a B. She goes, is there anything in your CV that was true? Not much.
Not much.
Not much. But you know, if you know, you know. Tell us about Boris, because he used to live next door to you.
Oh yeah, Boris. Obviously not Johnson. Me being a good socialist, I would have moved, or he would have moved. Boris Becker was my next door neighbour for about 5 years, and what a lovely bloke. We got on very well. And the first time I met him, I got invited to his housewarming party. They said, "Can you make it?" I thought, yeah, I can make it to international tennis stars. And the football was on. The Euros were on. He was German, and his missus at the time was Dutch, and they were playing each other. And this guy, I'll try and praise it. But anyway, we watched the match, and he said, "Oh, it looked like England would get through. It was no Euros or whatever. We lost to Italy. It looked like we were favourites to beat them. We were going to be playing Germany." He said, "Oh, I'd love to come in see your house. Can we come and watch the football?" So I said, "Yeah, of course you can." I can squeeze in international tennis star Boris Becker into my house. So I phoned a couple of my mates who are big tennis fans. I said, "I think Boris Becker's coming over. Come over. Don't say I asked you because he's coming, because I look like you just popped in because the lads pop in and watch the football together." So we watched. Actually, my wife was out that evening. He walked over with his little son and his wife, and Germany lost, but he was very good about it. And we were up in my kitchen with the TV on, and it was the first time the roof was on in Wimbledon. The new centre court roof was on in Wimbledon. They were playing late, and Adele was playing. So I said to Boris, "You commentate, don't you?" He said, "Well, let's turn the volume down and you commentate." So he did, and we turned. And I was going to said, "How cool am I? I got Boris Becker commentating live on Wimbledon tennis in my kitchen. I've arrived."
You know, I've met Boris a few times, courtesy of you. But he's a big Chelsea fan.
Yes.
Saw him at the football. Saw him at England, Germany, and your house. He's the only person in the world who, after meeting 5 or 6 times, still doesn't know me from Adam. And he is probably...
He's a good judge.
he's obviously one of the most famous people you ever be around, because he's literally just hounded wherever he goes.
Well, I said to Boris about how cool, and you've arrived or whatever. After Usain Bolt had won his Olympics in London, he was walking around with a Boris Becker T-shirt on. I thought, then you've arrived.
Oh, that is quite cool. But, and he was looking after Novak Djokovic, and you had his cryo chamber in your front garden.
I had Novak Djokovic in my garden for a week. But yeah,
as you do.
I won't go into the rest of the story about no. And another guy. He was actually it's funny. He was around. He did get knocked out that year, but my daughter was getting married that week, and we had lots of people over. Went out and pestered him, and he's absolutely charming, lovely guy, really nice fella.
So Goran Djokovic has been drinking here all week.
Yeah,
that's his uncle. We had an uncle off in the week, and on Sunday they're having their celebration party here, so they're planning ahead.
Oh right, fantastic!
So they're expecting to win it.
Yeah, I think probably.
So he's probably going to.
Mind you, the Alcatraz, as I call him, looks very good.
He looks really, really good. Can I just finish this piece by talking about LSE?
Oh yeah. Not LSD.
No, that's the whole
a different world.
Actually,
a different planet.
We could talk about that time that I passed a bit of paper across to you in a board meeting and said, I think I'm going to be uncle to the future queen.
I stopped the board meeting and I said, "What are you talking about, Gary? What are you talking about?"
He said,
"Kate's going out with Prince William." And he said, "Do you think I'll get a title?" And I came up instant. I thought it was very good or whatever. I came up the instant. I said, "Yes, you'll become the Count of Slough. They'd only have to add one letter to your name." Anyway, but
he doesn't get a round of applause for that.
Yeah, very
unbelievable. That is a very good story, by the way. Let's talk about LSE, because that alumni and your mates, the stuff that they've gone on to do, that you've got a tight friend, so you've got Gary Blackburn, who's manager of Fatboy Slim, Pete Tong and Madness. You got Ronnie, who cooks the books for all the stars.
No, Ronnie didn't go. No, Ronnie wasn't.
Oh, wasn't there?
No.
Tell us about the
other. He's older than him.
Yeah, well, he's
oh right, sorry. Well, no, funny. Just quickly, I went to a secondary modern school. If those remember it, but people didn't go to university. There was two of us ever went from the school. And the teacher goes, "Oh, you wouldn't go to Cambridge." Guy, don't talk about rubbish, miss. I'm not going out there. All snobs up there. Because I was a bit more cockney than I am now. And she said, "Well, what about LSE?" That's in London. Yeah, I like London. So I ended up going there. I thought, I'll give it a couple of weeks and they'll find out I'm not very bright or whatever. And I after 2 weeks, I didn't realise that I was very bright. I just realised nobody else was as bright as I thought they were. But which was quite a good lesson. Unlike today, I think the people who go to LSE now will end up working for Goldman Sachs and things like that. And good luck to them, they're making the money. But we probably a bit more. The crowd I went with, they had Gary, who was done very well in the music business. Had another, we had another guy, who I won't mention his name, Nigerian extraction, who ended up managing Lennox Lewis. We had, I'm trying to, who's the other's name? He's a film producer. Got Razor Spy, or was it? She's just retired, with James Bond. Worked for the Australian American government.
What was that noise?
Well, he I think we'd probably get shot on this. I won't give you a surname, but he was very charming. You never knew what he was up to, but he was working for a couple of governments, and he was always in places like Iran and Vladivostok. Apparently sorting out their finances, and he's very clever, but he couldn't count, so I never quite worked out what that was about. But and there's Robert Elms. Yeah, Robert Elms, who's actually Robert Elms is he's a Radio London disc jockey, but he was one of the founders of the Groucho Club and the Face, and he was going out with Sade when we were at university, which was very cool.
That is very cool.
Before she was famous.
Yeah, don't tempt to me. Means you got a record deal.
And there's a few others. Yeah, they were good.
I just think there was a generation when people went to university who were very entrepreneurial and went on to bigger and greater things. Subsequently and after that, it was just something that you seemed to do. I'm not sure if I'm a big fan of unis or people going to uni anymore. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I must admit, I do think when I went, I was a naive little lad from Tooting. I didn't know anybody who'd been to university. Came from a very different world, and it opened my eyes up a lot. And it was a lot of fun, and I met a lot of really good people. I'm not sure that I won't mention some of the provincial new places that started up are that good. The education's that good. People might be better doing vocational stuff.
I think so.
But which I think is probably the case. I mean, Russell used to joke about, say, people working at the University in North Circular, formerly Leatherland, doing Posh and Beck studies. It's not really, but not really where it's at. Apologies to those who are doing Posh and Beck studies. By the way, I'm sure you're very lovely people. But
I think getting vocational work or doing apprenticeships is definitely the way forward this time. But
ending up with a big debt when you really haven't got a bit of paper that's not worth that much afterwards is not necessarily a great idea. I think actually things have gone full circle. I mean, even banks and things like that are taking on commercial apprentices out of school at 18 now and seeing the benefit of kids who don't want to have that sort of debt for you know, and so, yeah. But I mean, I loved it. I had a great time. It was like, and I've done I've invested in scholarships for kids who can't afford to go, because I think a debt coming out with 50, 60 grand debt for a lot of working class kids is just not, it doesn't make sense.
It's
and I
too
see why
much,
they're not doing it. And you get some bright kids who should be going or whatever, who need some support. When I went, they didn't charge you fees and they gave you money for going. You know, it was wonderful. I had a Saturday job. The booze was free, you know, very cheap and everything like that. It was a very, very good 3 years. I was better off when I was there than when I started working to start off with. But loved it.
Well, in one of your 18 jobs. That's
yeah.
A huge thank you for all of the support from Corporate Peaks. Now, if you want to maximise how you incentivise, you have to phone these people. Business-related events, lunches, conferences and fun trips. From snow and black runs to tequilas and after sun, they just do it better. Cheers. Alphabet soup.
Can't clap.
You can't clap. There's a rhythm in there somewhere. Alphabet soup. So Bill, what we're going to do, we're going to spin the wheel. James, hey! Producer James comes around. We have moving features. I didn't throw any money at this. Now, Bill, give it a whirl. Give it a whirl. Give it a whirl.
So we wanted to see her now, didn't we?
Yeah, that's that. Oh, yeah. Go see. Oh, great!
That's amazing. I said it, get to the sea. Incredible.
Oh, literally. Can I just say that great work by Debbie McGee? That is brilliant. So, Bill, the Clachan.
Oh,
right.
The old home.
So we moved office twice whilst in London, still within the same ballpark of the Clachan. So the Clachan for us was our mecca. It was the pub that we always went to. Do you remember? What stories do you remember at the Clachan?
I remember they always said that Bill was a hardish bloke to get in the pub and an impossible one to get out. And I don't know, like a lot of blokes, you know, I love my wife and I'm very considerate, but get very inconsiderate. After about the third pint, you never call home.
It's called the pint of no return.
No return, but you never call home. So if you called home and said you'd be late, it'd be hello, but you don't call. It's the one thing you don't do. And one night I was in the pub and with the publican Pat, and we were drinking. It was like, and I said, Pat, it's really quiet in here tonight. He said, Bill, it's 2:15 in the morning. Everybody else left at 11. Oh dear, trouble.
But do you remember when he heard a rumour that we were moving?
Oh yeah, the publican was
we went from Conduit Street across to Fuber's Place.
We had about, must have been over 100 people working in the offices there, and you know, a good half of them would go over to the pub regularly.
Yeah.
And
not during office hours.
No, never drank during office hours. It was always after 5:30.
Yeah.
Normally kicked out at closing time.
Yeah.
But although it's a pub just off of Regent Street or whatever, we were very, you know, he thought we were. And he was moving. I said, "What's wrong, Pat?" He said, "I'm in trouble. You're moving. I'm going to lose so much trade." I said, what's the bother? He said, well, we're moving closer. We're 150 yards away, and now we're about 80 yards away. And he said, thank Christ for that. But I mean, when they did the pub up, you know, he was moving on.
It was hard to tell.
And they sent down the big pub sign that's I've got it at home. I've never put it up. He sent it down to me as a sign of appreciation for the custom we put in there.
Do you know, it's fun because it was right opposite Fuber's Place. So they had that very small little outside area, which is exactly where the door was. And I used to set up camp there. So if I saw people sneaking off, it was like the tractor beam would grab them. And to be fair, I think it was all part of our culture. It wasn't about the drinking. It was about when people are just off guard and not sat in a room, you actually really hear what people think.
Totally. Well, actually, smoking. I mean, a terrible habit, and I gave up many years ago. But smoking was really useful for me in business because you went outside, and I mean, some people afterward didn't know who I was, and I'd end up and they'd tell me everything that was going on in the company or whatever.
That Goldsmith.
And you become mates or whatever when you're doing that. I mean,
I think Lawrence Doe was the first person who managed to actually smoke a whole cigarette in 2 puffs. But so they managed to do it because everyone was on the clock to make sure you're getting back to. I think as well, we had such great culture that you work so hard. I was telling people the other day about the hotline, and people used to run around our office, not walk, because you just wanted to get things done, and people were genuine there to make money, except for when they walked past the client hotline, because if you answered the client hotline, you closed it on the trial start, you got the vacancy, and it was a little bit like a big bundle.
The red phones, it was like in the Oval Office.
Was it not genius? That was another. That was one of the genius ideas, but the pub.
Was that your idea or mine?
Should we talk about all the houses I bought you?
You've been so good to me over the years.
So if you think about everybody else, and they chipped in and bought you a boat, but I bought you the big Audis. but that's a whole nother story. Something that I didn't ask you about was Taxigate.
Oh, it was my 60th, wasn't it? 60th birthday.
It was. Yeah, it was your 60th, yeah.
My 60th birthday. Gary very kindly bought me a London taxi.
I mean, I went all out.
And he got this thing delivered. And I think it was a fake because it said it had just come off, it literally was a few weeks off of running out of its licence. There's no way that vehicle was on the road. I got in, the number one, the guy, Warwick Davis, must have been taller than me. He had the seat fitted or whatever. And I'm not exactly tall, but you couldn't get in there. I got in there, my kids got in the back. I think it was something for actually killing people, because I think the exhaust fumes went into the back of the car. It was just, it was all over my drive. And he got it, and I said, Gary, can you get rid of that bloody thing?
Didn't he throw his guts?
When it first got, I thought this would be really nice, the London taxi were fun or whatever. No, it was a death trap.
Didn't he throw his guts up and oil all over your drive?
Well, you had to pay more to get it taken away than you paid for it, didn't it?
That's true. I did go all out. It was your 60th, so I spent 750 quid on the taxi, including delivery from Sheffield.
Yeah.
It definitely cost me more.
Oh, it came from Sheffield. Yeah. Oh, right. Okay, that accounts for it. I thought it was a London taxi. That's why it's in such a state.
It was a shithole. But it did cost me over £2,000 to have it taken away, destroyed. I had to have it put down.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
That was brilliant. It's main sponsor time. So a massive shout out to Kingsbridge Insurance Group, and specifically Elements. This truly unique and brilliant one place, one solution, staffing and compliance reliance tool is making a massive difference. It's a way to reduce your business op costs and fund some very questionable and random life choices. Our CEOs are all using it for a reason. You should too. Right, so Bill, seamless, as if I didn't get that wrong first time round. Right, we're going to go to a desert island, and you have an opportunity. So, desert island prison, you can choose one thing, right? So I'm going to go through this list. It's a quick fire round. It gives us a little bit of more insight into the Bill Bottriell.
Can I bring my wife?
well, one wish.
One wish. I'll bring my wife.
There we go. Brilliant.
Oh, that'd be mean though, wouldn't it? Putting her in prison. Yeah. So yeah. Sorry, Diana. I wouldn't bring you because it would be unfair.
Okay, so have another wish. One wish.
Get out of jail free card. Did you say a jail?
Okay, right.
Is it a jail or an island?
If you're going to make this hard...
Is it a jail or an island?
I'm just shoehorning some ideas together here, mate.
I'm not sure. Is it an island? It's not, island or
it's
jail?
Not very well thought out.
Right, okay.
Get over it, right? So, one wish.
One wish. Go home.
Okay. James, I'm not sure he's bought into this. Right.
I don't know what you're talking about.
One prediction.
One prediction. Spurs are going to win the Premiership 2024.
It's madness. The best moment you've ever had?
Day my wife married me.
Literally, the sad thing.
Did that work?
The sad thing is that is true. Okay, you have to, on pain of death, have a tattoo. What is it of?
A very small dot. I hate tattoos. Yeah.
You're in the wrong crowd here. Yeah. Right, you can have one do-over. So one thing that you could do again and change it.
Be born?
You wouldn't want to be born again?
No, it's like one thing I'd like to do again.
You'd like to start again?
Yeah.
So I get nervous about that. Do you think you could get that lucky again?
Well, not now, but when I get to the end to go back and start again would be nice, wouldn't it?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
One guilty pleasure.
Diet Coke.
Well, it's diet, so it's actually...
It's working, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you think the more you drink, the more you diet? Is that the theory?
I think it's got the reverse effect. I think it's probably that that's fattening me up.
Okay.
Actually, I've got to say...
I think some of your music
if you told me... Well, I always thought podcasts were filmed or whatever, and if I'd have known, I would have gone on a diet before I came here.
You're always on a diet. It makes no difference.
True.
It's like throwing suitcase off the Titanic. Right, so one sporting victory you wish you had had. So it might have been me lifting the 1966 World Cup. What might yours have been?
What is it?
A sporting victory that you would have loved to be part of.
To me,
win Wimbledon.
Something that actually happened, not a dream.
But you can wish for anything. Spurs winning the European.
Spurs winning the treble next year, going on for the quadruple the following year, and England winning the Euros and then the World Cup in 2020.
You've gone too far.
Or whatever.
You scored a couple of goals as well while you were there.
I mean, hat trick.
Hat trick boy.
Do you know that we played that game? I can't remember. You get it. I played a game at White Hart Lane. We bought a charity auction, and Harry Redknapp managed us. And everybody knows this. I am the worst. I love football, but I was the worst football. I've got no talent. I was absolutely crap. And we had. They said Harry Redknapp was manager, so we were playing at the old White Hart Lane at the end of the season, and Jamie Redknapp was managing the opposing team. They said I could have 14 players. I turned up with 24 players with rolling subs. My oldest player was 72, and we just had rolling subs. But I went up for a corner. And the corner came over and I hit the ball and it just scraped the outside of the post and didn't go in. And they said, that was a brilliant effort. I said, it came off my knee. I went to head it. Therein lies my talent. Anyway.
That is brilliant. One person you wish you could have or could meet. So from history or from current life.
Person history. Meet.
Winnie Churchill, Elizabeth I. Norman Tebbit. Desmond Tutu. Where are we going?
Desmond Tutu. Actually, Nelson Mandela. I'd love to meet Nelson Mandela.
What would you have said to him? What would you have said?
Hi, Nelson. Good job, well done. No, I think there's something magical about a man who's had so much wrong done against him who turns out so good and so forgiving or whatever, and, it's a shame we can't all be like that.
Oh. But I don't think people realise that you have got a very good soul and your moral compass is right up there.
So, I'm a Labour voter.
You don't get everything right. Yeah. So if you have to have one type of food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Piggy. Pork.
Really?
I love pork.
What, bacon?
Bacon.
Chops,
sausages. Black pudding, white pudding. Crackling. Roast pork on a Sunday.
God,
ham.
Let it go.
I was going to say pastrami, of course that's beef, but it looks like...
Right, one luxury item that you can't live without.
My wife.
Is she a luxury item?
Yeah, totally.
I did say to her yesterday, behind every great man there's an awful lot of shopping. I went that route. You can have one phone call only, and you can't phone your wife.
One phone call? Don't know. Sorry, you got me there.
You don't give a shit.
About who to phone?
Well, phone your favourite child. Who would that be?
I told them all that I've got equal contempt for the five of them.
One mantra that you live by.
One mantra. What's it? Spending God will send.
Spending God will send. Brilliant. That's praise to your mum. One book to read. If you advise everyone to read one book, what would it be?
Encyclopedia Britannica.
Is that still going?
I've got mine still, yeah.
You got a whole
You can look it all up at Wikipedia, yeah.
Yeah, it's pointless.
Yeah.
Is that
pointless? Well, they used to do an annual book, which is quite good, and it's got all statistics of the world and the major events that have happened or whatever, which is every year, which is quite interesting, yeah. But yeah.
Okay. I got to say, James, that was like pulling fucking teeth. Should we go for emergency questions then?
I think that might be a good idea.
Brilliant.
What, they're supposed to be funny answers?
Yeah, you were rubbish.
What's that?
Emergency questions. it means that one of us has been boring.
Right. All right, I'll go.
Right. Okay. Right. Pick a number between 1 and 10.
7.3.
Right. What is the most interesting thing you've ever learned about the world? The world we live in. So one sort of thing that you really like.
Leap year.
Now bear with me, because we've talked about this. If it's divisible by 4, or when it's 100, it's divisible by 5.
No.
I'm close.
Everybody says, when is it a leap year? And they say a year that's divisible by 4. But that's not the total answer, except for a century year, unless it's divisible by 400.
So it's close.
So 1900 wasn't a leap year, and nor will 2100 be, but 2000 was.
Okay.
That's not interesting.
So James,
you said I'm going to get more boring.
James, think of a date in the future.
Okay.
Any date.
Yeah.
So
do I have to tell you? Is this like a card trick?
You've got to tell us.
Okay.
And he'll say if it's a leap year and when the nearest leap year is.
Okay.
Well, that's not very good.
That's really hard.
No.
That's really hard.
The 15th of July, 2029.
2020.
Well, it's not going to be July, is it? It's
Well,
February.
It's not a leap year.
I'll have to pick February,
Well, it's just the
2029.
year, yeah.
So when's the next leap year?
Yeah.
2032.
Divisible by 4.
Yeah.
Well done. Unbelievable. Yeah.
Wasn't the hardest.
Is that definitely correct? Then?
Actually, used to call me the count at work. Do you remember they said they call him the count because he loves to count?
It's just one letter out, mate. That's what that is. Just well, another one. 1 to 10.
Yeah.
1 to 10. Give me a number.
8.4.
No, stop that. The best pub quiz fact.
Best pub fix fact.
Yeah. You might have blown it with the last one.
I don't know.
Okay, bullshit. Let's go for number 4. What's your biggest fear and why?
Biggest fear. Fear of Tottenham not winning the 2024 Premiership.
Literally, it's a consistent theme, isn't it? He's just not playing the game now.
It's moderately obsessive, isn't it?
It is, totally.
Yeah, no, give us another one. You scared of anything?
Scared of anything.
Loneliness. Not having a house full.
No, I'm an only child, so I'm great with my own company, so I'm going.
Well, I know for a fact that you start shopping for Christmas in January, right? So
that's not true.
Well, it is true.
Late February.
but you do shop for Christmas incredibly early.
Well, I think, especially if you think COVID or whatever, you got to think COVID time. You had to do something, didn't you?
Brilliant. Right.
Actually, what about the lovely Christmas present you bought me, the dancing Santa? It's brilliant. Yeah, it's brilliant.
6 foot. He's taller than you.
Yeah, my Gary comes to us for Christmas or whatever. My house is since COVID and having grandchildren, we've gone mad. I've had a grotto built and
just in
really
case.
Good.
Yeah,
everything. We've got reindeers and a sleigh, haven't we? And it's really fun.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's the best place in the world to go for Christmas. Huge thank you to RDLC for chipping in and supporting me on this private adventure. It is the only place to be. There are other recruitment networks, but frankly, they're shit. Always work with the RDLC. It's a better place to be. Hang out with 300 recruitment CEOs. It's the board you can't afford. Peace. Yes, right. So, but Bill, you've done pretty well in life, right? We're going back in time. Right. So you've done brilliantly in life. I think, hashtag winner. But if you were to sit down with your 18-year-old self, what advice would you give yourself for the future?
Right, serious ones start off with, I smoked till I was 50, and I would advise myself to give up smoking straight away. On the serious, I probably would have gone to university because I had great fun, but I would have gone straight into recruitment afterwards because it was a...
How old were you when you went into recruitment?
28.
So I did it at 21.
Yeah.
It's a game changer.
Yeah, it was a great, and I think, I think we could have run the world if we started 7 years earlier, but...
Well, you didn't do too bad.
We did all right, but yeah. But I mean, sometimes though you learn from your mistakes, don't you? The more mistakes you make. Or whatever.
Do you not think recruitment is still the best sector on the planet? It's a meritocracy. You're good enough. You're old enough if you're good enough. There's no barriers to entry.
I do worry that eventually everybody's going to have their own personal recruitment consultant because there's so many people. Everybody I seem to know goes into it. Actually, I got to say, when we interviewed or whatever, I used to come out with. I was actually more into people's personality than anything else. That was the right. And one of the questions I always asked people were just to get when you were younger, did you have any ambition? Did you want to do? I said I had one. A couple when I was a kid. I wanted to be a composer, but I can't play the piano. I wanted to be an architect, but I can't draw a straight line. I wanted to be the Pope because I used to love when I was a kid the way the Pope used to get carried around. I thought that was quite good.
Did someone actually say that?
No, I did. No, that was mine. They were mine. They would have been mine if you'd asked me. I probably would have said them at interview. But I had one guy and he turned up and he said, did you ever, when you were younger, and this was fairly early on, he said, did you ever do ambition? He said, I always wanted to be a computer recruitment consultant. And I couldn't stop laughing. And I thought, if he hadn't been absolutely dreadful, he would have got the job on the spot or whatever. I just thought it was. And I said, that's the biggest lie I've ever heard. I only heard about it 3 years ago.
Do you know? I remember we tried this thing because I wanted to get a judge of if people were lying or not. So I shouldn't really say this. So we asked people in contracts to put their hand up if they were lying. Being compelling, you should say. I thought we were going to get done for repetitive strain injury because everyone had their hand in the air all the time. And I thought, this is going brilliantly. Then suddenly thought, it's probably not the image I really want to be taken away from recruitment. We're not lying, we're being compelling. Yes, and just selling what you've got.
Well, do you remember I used to do the final interviews on everybody? We'd interview down the thing, and literally, I'd just go in and say, do I find them likeable? And I think that, because I mean, one of the important things, you can get people who are very good, but they don't fit in. They don't. There isn't a chemistry or whatever. And it was more that. And I used to go in, and we had a guy. He was a Northern Irish guy called Max. I won't mention his surname, right? And Max didn't have exactly the greatest education or whatever. He ended up being a director of ours, and at the time it's before spell checking or whatever. And I went in after about 3 minutes. He was Catholic from Northern Ireland, so he was in straight away. And yeah, I decided
he lived just on the Fool's Road.
Yeah. I decided, Max was fine or whatever. I couldn't cut it too short. So I said to him, well, the thing is, we could prepare CVs, and the spelling's pretty important or whatever, and I give me a spelling check. Now, I'm dyslexic, I can't spell to save my life. I got a university paper sent back, said, very good paper, but how anybody with a standard of English ever got to the UK university was beyond him. And I was there, and I was going, dexterity, ambidextrous, tautology. And he's there, he's sweating away, and he's writing the thing down or whatever, so I threw it in the bin. And a few weeks later, he saw it someone else and said, who joined recently, he said, how did you get on with the spelling test? And he ever got what marks? He said, well, I never had a spelling test. And after a while, he came up to me and he said, hey, Bill, he'd been there about 6 months. I mean, nobody else ever got a spelling test. I said, what are you talking about? I said, oh, it's a hot day. I said, I decided you were in or whatever, but I thought it'd be quite funny. I couldn't spell them myself.
Do you remember Barry Patterson who got turned down?
Oh, yeah, that was brilliant, wasn't it?
Yeah, genius. Tell the story.
Yeah, but there's a guy, he did very, very well for us in the end, but I just wasn't sure about him. And we turned him down, and the following, he'd been through all the interviews, and the following day he turned up, and PA came in, and she said, that guy's outside, the Ball Barry, they called him. And he said, because that was bald. But
no shit.
Yeah, we came up with some great names. And he came, and there was 2 bottles with a label on, and one was a bottle of champagne, and one was a bottle of whiskey. And he said, the bottle of whiskey, he said, if you don't change your mind, keep this bottle of whiskey, and you can drown your sorrows when I've gone somewhere else and made them lots of money. But if you do, keep the bottle. If you do take me on, keep the champagne, and you can celebrate your great decision. So I just went out and said, start on Monday.
That was brilliant.
And I thought it was brilliant or whatever. I've given that suggestion to a few kids. I don't know if they've ever tried it. They've been turned down.
So I think that's genius. But Barry Patterson used to turn up at Richard Banks's house and get hammered and sleep in their spare room. And Barry was very rotund, very bald. And their kids woke up and they went into Richard and Ross and said, Mummy, Daddy, wake up. Humpty Dumpty's in the spare room. And he came in and told us, what an idiot. Also, we ended up having 2 people in the business called Martin King. Yeah. So we held a ballot to say what should be called the second one. So we had to change his name, and because he came from Liverpool, he changed his name to Nick. Nick King. Nick King.
What about the early doors?
7 years.
No, the Safeways one was really good, where we had this guy, and the IT director's name was Dave Clark. And we sent an invite for David Clark, and he said, I'm really interested in this guy. He said, we've got a Dave Clark here already. There's 2 of us. So we got him in, and amazingly, they got someone else, and it was there was 4 Dave Clarks there. And we got this trainee in who wanted to get a job. They wouldn't take on trainees. And I called him up and I said, we've got a trainee who is called David Clark. He said, send him down. If he's any good, I'll take him on. We'll be the Dave Clark 5. And it was best one of the great
placements in the world.
Yeah.
A massive thank you and shout out to Target Recruits, the #1 Salesforce-based recruitment-centric CRM. Now, they are the ultimate single moment of truth for aspirational business leaders in recruitment. If you're not aspirational, I wouldn't bother. So, Bill, look, I've been trying to practice this with you.
Right.
It's guest choice. We can I can ask you a question about anything you want me to ask. You can ask me a question about anything you want to ask. Or we can play the game 2 truths and a lie.
Oh, 2 truths and a lie.
Okay. If I don't get the lie, I will put money, 250 quid, to a charity of your choice. Okay? Now, story number 1, go.
Story number 1. Mick Jagger asked me to play guitar with the Rolling Stones.
It's pretty strong, isn't it? Right, story number 2.
So I've got to do 2 truthful ones and 1 lie. Is it 2 truthful ones and 1 lie?
We've practiced this.
Yeah, but I forgot now.
I think the first one might be true based on the fact we're still going through the rules.
Right, yes.
Well, I don't know, where's my bit of paper? I'm going to see now, I'm old.
This has got edit written all over it. This has got...
I'll put a piece of paper in.
Okay, brilliant. I'm pleased you're retired.
All right. Okay.
Right.
Do you want that one? Is that one in?
We got to keep this in.
So do I say...
This is absolute golden, isn't it?
Do I say...
No edit. No edit.
Right, yeah. So the first one, Mick Jagger invited you to play with the Rolling Stones. Yes. Brilliant. Seamless. Number two,
I eat shit. And what's number three?
Strong, isn't it?
Number three.
Highlight of the series so far.
I once voted Conservative. You've got to say which are true and which is a lie.
I happen to know, because I have known you for 30 years, that you were invited to play guitar with the Rolling Stones. True. That is a true story. Yeah. We're going to have to go into that.
Yeah.
I happen to know that you have eaten Louis shit.
We'll explain. Louis is a baby, and it was an accident. Anyway.
And I don't think it's within the realms of possibility that you would ever vote Tory. So that's the lie.
Well, the lie is they're all true.
Oh, you don't. It's not even playing the game.
Oh, it's good. It's good. Unexpected. You still got to cough up 250 quid now.
I know. Well, I don't know why you're clapping. Nothing funny about that. Right, let's go through the Rolling Stones. Right. Because obviously you got Mick Jagger written all over you.
Oh, totally. Me and Mick like that. No, I had a Saturday job when I think it was just towards the end of school, working in a hi-fi shop up in London, and they were the first people to sell video cassette recorders. This is back in about 1974.
VHS, Betamax?
No, it's Philips. A Philips VHS it was called. They were before them. And I had to deliver two to a Mr. Richards at the Mobile Studios in Rathbone Place. So I've got the cab down there, unloaded. They're quite big boxes, unloaded, went up the thing.
How can you remember that address, but you can't remember what the Two Truths and Lie was?
But you see, when you get old and you get a bit dappy, you remember things in the past, but the current things are a bit more difficult.
No short term.
And I am an OAP in about 10 days.
No short term.
So it's that terrible expression, old, aged and pensioner. They stab you 3 times, don't they? It's like old's horrible, aged and pensioner. I mean, I don't normally like American, but senior sounds like a bit of an accolade. I'm a senior.
It sounds like a golf talk.
Anyway,
okay.
So we've gone. So they told me that Mr. Richards had to sign for it. So I've got this secretary or whatever thing said, I'll sign for him. No, Mr. Richards has got to sign for him. I said, well, he's busy. I said, well, I've got to take him back then. I'm a Saturday boy. So she went out and got this guy, and I didn't recognise him. And he said, do you want to come and see my band? I said, and I used to try and scrounge records to sell because I had a lot of things like that. So I went in, and old Hot Lips is up there and whatever. And he held a guitar out, and he said, do you play, son? It was after that Mick Jones had left, before Ronnie Wood joined. And he held the guitar out and said, can you play? And I sat there and went, no. Now, I should have just picked it up and gone like that, shouldn't I? But I have been asked, that's genuinely true. Okay, now talk me through, everyone needs to know about you eating shit. Yeah, this happened 2 days ago. I was babysitting. Actually, the first time I babysitted my two grandkids, who were 3 and 1.5, and we've got a little cot in our study or whatever for him, and he has a little nap in the afternoon, so the curtains all pulled, it's dark, and those who've got babies know that basically sometimes it smells a bit funny, and it was dark in there, and I picked him up, went to sniff, it was right on my thing, and the shit had all come through, it was all over my face. So yeah. Good time. So yeah, Granddad's shit face. Can we quote that? Hey? We'll quote that. Okay. And voting Tory? Yeah, once in council in Tooting, they had, you vote for 3 councillors, and it was one of the first times I voted, and it was things could get a bit racist. And the Tories had 3 candidates, and 2 were white and 1 was Asian. So I gave one of my votes to the Asian, being PC, sort of saying at least he won't get less votes or whatever. And he did. He still got a lot less votes than the other 2 white Conservatives, which they still didn't get elected. But that was my one vote for Conservative. Anyway, not a great story, but anyway.
Well, to be fair, you got 250 quid for it, so well done you. Well done you. Is it final last words? So, thank you very much, brother, for doing this. You've been brilliant. I love you very much, and
Cheers.
I look forward to tomorrow tennis and
semis.
lads, and Can on Monday. So life's gonna be brilliant. As with all of these podcasts, I like to give my guests the final word. So thank you for being here, Bill Bottriell. Over to you, whatever you like to say.
Gary Goldsmith is an absolutely smashing bloke, and I don't care what the rest of you say.
That's a backhanded compliment if ever I've heard one. I love you very mumuch. Tune in to an next episode ever so soon. So thank you very much, James, Bill. See you soon.